All right, so my Instagram has been blowing up and I want to share exactly what I've been doing because if you want to grow your business, social media has to be part of your business plan. My biggest problem was that I was relying too much on one selling channel, one source of income, one source of traffic. So diversifying your traffic for your business is absolutely critical. So my average 5,000 follower account has been getting average on 30,000 views per video. Sometimes it goes over 100,000, sometimes it goes under 20,000, but it's been pretty consistently blowing up. Now, it used to get on average about 1,000 to 2,000 views per reel until I made these changes that I'm gonna share with you guys in this video. It just blew up and it's very palpable. So you can very noticeably see that happening. For those that don't know, my name is Vlad. I'm a top seller on Etsy. I also consult and manufacture for some top sellers as well. So this is what I've been doing. This is what's been happening to me. And if it's appropriate for your business, I think this is definitely something you can find from this video. Now, by the way, at the end of the video, I'm going to share with you guys kind of my formula that I use to create my reels that get those views as well. Because I think it's a two-part solution. Not only do you need to understand your audience, you need to understand how the algorithm works, but you also need to format your reels, your content in a certain way. And I want to talk about that. So make sure to watch to the end. So the first out of the three things that I started doing is instead of making content for my audience, I started making content for an audience. And that's the big difference. There's a reason why group chats are becoming more and more popular in the past year. We all know that social media is not chronological, right? When your friends are posting something, people that you actually care about in terms of what they're doing right now, it's not going to pop up on your feed unless you've been interacting with it. Because sometimes, your friend does something that's just not yours. It's not what you're interested in. They could be mountain biking, but you've connected with them because you both love programming. And they did mountain biking at one point. You swipe past because you're not interested in that. But you are interested in what your friend is doing overall. But the algorithm assumes that you're not interested in your friend. And so that's why group chats have been a big thing, is because no matter where you are, you're going to be notified that, hey, your friend is mountain biking right now, and you can either interact with that or not interact with that, but you are still part of that group chat. And that's why it's been growing, because social media hasn't been providing that, right? And so people kind of naturally created that as a source of, a community. So it's its own social media. So now the algorithms are different on social media. So instead of your friends or family or your uncle or Aunt Sally making content, it's now more of the professionals that are creating content, because they're the ones that are able to engage with you consistently over and over and over again. And so you're finding people that are across the country making content that you're interested in, that you see more of than your best friend that is into mountain biking. And so therefore, instead of making content for your people or your community, you need to make content for a community. And the way that looks like is, when I made for this account, I made my interests are Etsy, selling on Etsy. It's making a manufacturing process that's efficient, that creates better cash flow, creates better profits, and it's sewing. And so there's kind of spans across three things. Now, some of the people that followed me because they were interested in my how to sell on Etsy, and they're more print on demand sellers. Some people that followed me they're interested in process creation. They might not be selling on Etsy, but they're interested in process creation. And some people that are interested in sewing. And those three groups of people are following me. So sometimes they get, I appeal to one group of people and not the other two. That creates very little interaction with my content. And so it's confusing to the algorithm, what am I actually doing? And so it's not recommending to more people. And then what I decided to do, I decided out of those three communities types, which ones have the highest affinity. Affinity is, for example, in Europe, soccer has a higher affinity than soccer here in America. And that's really how you can see the word affinity. I realized out of the three groups of people, whether selling on Etsy, whether process creation or sewing community, which of those three have the highest affinity? And I discovered it was the sewing community with a little bit of process building. Okay. And so I narrowed down to specifically that group of people. Now you can discover this on just seeing which reels are doing better. And that will show you that the affinity is much higher, because if they have a higher affinity, they're going to interact with your content much better. And so that's what you want to look out for. So I decided to narrow down on that group of people and started making community or content for that community, whether they follow me or not. Okay. The second thing I've been doing is make content assuming they don't know who you are. And if they are not in that community, they will also appreciate it. Those are the ones that kind of reach past the 100,000 views, is the people that might not even be in the sewing community. They might also appreciate that. The reason why that happens is because when you get more people interacting with your reel, it'll then boost your reel even further to even the community that is interested in this content. So for example, take a look at this video. It's just a winding up a strap going from just this pile of a mess into an organized roll of straps. Sewing community is going to love that, right? Because you're organizing, there's a sewing machine in the background, and people that are not in the sewing community would also appreciate the organization in the video happening real time. It's almost satisfying. And so whether you are somebody that has been following me or not, you would both appreciate the video. So when you're able to make a piece of content that is really appreciated by so many people, but more so in the community, you're going to have a viral hit. So the third thing I've been doing, you're saying, Vlad, but I do want to interact with that community. Why am I just making content that is so superficial? Well, this is where I made the distinction. So what I've been doing is on reels or posts, I've been entertaining, but on stories, I've been interacting. Okay, that's just the rule of thumb. Now, again, you can kind of cross and break that rule, but the rule of thumb is you entertain and then interact on stories. Entertain on post, interact on stories. Because when you're entertaining, a lot of people just walking by the street will be curious to see what you're doing when you're juggling something. But then when they know and want to know more, they get closer to your account, closer to who you are as a business, they're going to interact with your stories. If they followed you, maybe they interacted with some posts, they're going to see your stories. And that's where you can introduce more of yourself. And that's really where I make most of my comments about selling on Etsy and process building, kind of really addressing the other parts of just what I'm interested in. But the posts or the reels have been really designated for a community, not my community, and entertain them, whether they're in the sewing niche or not in the sewing niche, but they will be entertained nonetheless. So that's the three things that I've been doing. Now, I've been curating my content to match this kind of the three-piece formula that I've been working. Again, this has just been working for me, and it might be, if it's working for you, go ahead and do that. I think it's gonna be really cool. So when I make my content, the very first scene, it has to pique interest. Okay, it has to be exciting for more people than just a certain community. So even though I'm doing the niche, the sewing community, high affinity, when they see a sewing machine, all of a sudden they're interested, right? Because especially when they're looking through the kind of For You page and they see all this kind of reels, that first scene, that first, they're going to be interested because it's sewing, right? They're going to click on that. And then if they're not in the sewing, they're also going to be intrigued, right? There's also a level of interest that they will have. And so if you can pique that interest in the first frame, all of a sudden you're going to get their attention. The second part of the video, which is the body of the video, and it's most of the video, is going to want to do one of two things. So it's either going to raise questions like, oh, what is that sewing machine? Oh, what is, the answer to the first question he asked in the beginning of the video? I want to know, and I'm going to watch to the end of the video to find out. Like, oh, what is he doing in the video? That's going to be useful for me. So that you're raising interest by them asking the question and wanting that answer to that question, whether you asked it directly in the video or there's something in the video that they're interested in more of, that they want to explore, and they're going to go through your account to see more of that. And one of those things, for example, is this sewing machine that I have. It's a very unique sewing machine that kind of folds the straps. And so it's been piquing a lot of people's interest because they don't know what that is. They're like, oh, that's very useful. And so they want to know more. And so these videos have been blowing up because there's this question that they want answers to. And the second part of that body you can also do is be useful. Useful meaning you've given either really useful information, like, oh, I'm so glad I came across this video because this was so useful. Or you've shown a piece of equipment or a technique in the video, they're like, oh, this is so useful. Whether you pique the questions or interest, or you have provided great value, I apologize, I'm sitting next to a window, it's getting brighter, but whether you're doing one of those two, it's going to have the viewer make clickable events. like sharing it, favoring it, liking it, commenting for more questions, that's going to trigger the algorithm that this piece of content has much higher interaction than all the other content. Therefore, it's going to rank it better. But then the third thing of that kind of the formula is I end the video the moment I've done one of those two things. But you have to be strategic about what you're going to do. Which one are you going to choose? Okay. Now you can do both. You can raise the question and be very, very useful, which is even better. But you need to have a strategic approach when you're about to film a video. What's the first shot that I'm going to do that's going to make it look the best? And second of all, what is going to be kind of my strategy? Do I want to pique interest, or do I want to provide value? Or is there opportunity for both? And the moment you fulfill that in the video, you stop the video. You don't tail, there's no tail to the video, you stop the video. Because that's going to have a much higher interaction with your video and higher retention rate. Now, that's for Instagram and how to grow on Instagram. And those things are very important. But for other algorithms like YouTube or maybe Etsy or Amazon, thumbnail is that thing. So if you want to grow on those algorithms, make sure to check out this video on how to create the perfect thumbnail to have this viral growth as well, just in a different format.